Standouts to me are, I think Ann's song is excellent because it was very different than everything else we'd done. Spirit, because it was a very old riff and part that we had from the very beginning of the band, and we'd finished it. I love how it turned out, and we still played it on our most recent tours. Crab Song became a live staple, which was excellent. Chinese Arithmetic for me because it was so much fun to play, and it reminds me of the times that we spent on tour and where we wrote that song. We wrote that song in a place called the Metroplex in Atlanta on the stage because it just sounded so good, that building. So there you go. Well, that was a long ass time ago, I'll say that, first of all. And what I can remember offhand, the first thing that comes to mind is that was the first time we went to the UK and Europe, which was really a good beginning for us of finding an audience or finding and connecting with people. Also going places and sort of really learning how to present what we did. And that was the beginning of that process. We had more support behind us with Slash Records and Bob Biggs and Anna Statman, who believed in what we were doing and tried their best to help get us out there and keep us out there. So yeah, kind of the beginning for real of getting us out there. That was Introduce Yourself. Obviously, it was also the end of our run with Chuck, which was frustrating and bittersweet because although it was frustrating, there was still a lot of good feelings and a lot of history and hard work that we had with him. But it ran its course and became pretty clear that we weren't going to keep getting better, evolving, improving, learning, and honing our craft. So we made a change, and that was a big change. It was controversial, and some people were very scared about it outside of the band as far as business goes, because they don't want to upset the apple cart, but we did it, and that's how it goes.
I assume, yeah, you're talking about We Care a Lot. I wrote the lyrics to that song, and it was something that was sort of really in our just collective as far as like living in San Francisco and being who we were and the friends that we had and the lives we were living. I think was just, we were just singing about stuff around us. I think also it was a direct response to, I think We Care a Lot was really based on like We Are the World, you know, that sort of cheesy kind of charity song that came out in the 80s or early 90s, I think it was, but in a cheeky, defiant sort of way. That was kind of our response to that, like kind of a political anthem. Also, we were listening to Run DMC a lot at the time, was really big on our sort of like playlist, and the song was sort of generated musically by that sort of vibe, and then the lyrical content sort of rapping, which, you know, we hadn't done, but sort of incorporated, was inspired by that. And like I said, the lyrical content was just based on sort of like, yeah, things in the world. It was probably different though because it was coming from my voice rather than Mike's or Chuck's, so I guess I'm to blame for that. I think like in the mix of like the first batch of songs that we wrote, that song was strong and felt like sort of the most, I don't know, accessible sort of song at the time. And we put our record out on a pretty small label called More Damn Records, which was great. A woman named Ruth Schwartz put out the record, and it did fine, but like, you know, I mean, on a very small level. So at the time we decided to make a record for Slash. It felt like, yeah, why not? Like re-record the song and give it a second chance. It was really just sort of like we were hoping for, you know, more attention and more kind of record sales and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. Felt like not cheesy at all. It's just like, yeah, let's do that. We were able to make a really pretty strong video for it. We had a budget for a video that was also part of the decision, I think. And
So, we made Introduce Yourself the way we made We Care a Lot. I mean, we made We Care a Lot on a super tight budget. I think we made it in two parts because we couldn't afford to make the whole album in one go. And the way we made sure we were efficient was we knew everything we were going to be doing before we went in. And we worked it out. We worked it hard and we refined it so that we just went in and banged it out. We did the same with Introduce Yourself. And pretty much, I would say 99.9% of the arrangements were done by us. We had Matt Wallace produced We Care a Lot, but we pretty much had done all of the arrangements and stuff. So he was kind of there as an engineer pretty much. And so we wanted to, we were independent minded. We wanted to keep control over our work and we kind of went into that way. Where it changed a little bit was, we got signed to Slash Records and they didn't know us. They didn't want to give us a bunch of money to go and record. They didn't know Matt, and they wanted to have somebody they trusted. So they told us we needed to bring in another producer on the project, which was Steve Berlin from Los Lobos. And Steve, we were a little cagey at first because we didn't know him and we didn't know what he was going to do. Was he a spy? What was he doing? But he was cool. We really got along well. He loved the music. And he was actually, a good set of ears around. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and I got to think I learned a lot actually having him around, and his perspective was great. So nobody was guiding us, but everybody was supporting us. And you listen to that record now, it's got some it's a little rough around the edges. I don't doesn't bother me at all, but you can tell with that roughness that we were left to our own devices to a certain extent. That was interesting. We did something like 56 shows in 55 days, I think. It was a crazy tour. There weren't any days off that I can think of. And we were all pretty young. I mean, we were in our early 20s, so people were going out. People were we could bounce back from most things, but we got drilled pretty hard. I mean, we were in a van. We were in a van. They were in a camper. In the beginning, we were kind of like, kind of checking each other out because, they were this band from LA. We were this band from San Francisco. And we had, at the time, neither of us really were similar to anything from where we were coming from. And we both kind of had a certain groove-based thing to what we did. So, it's kind of natural, I guess, that we would tour together. But it was a little weird at first. And after about a week, it kind of warmed up. And towards the end, it was just, after a couple of months of that, we were just in the groove. And it's funny, we never really stayed in touch with them after that tour. But that tour was, there was a lot of things that happened. And there was a lot of great gigs, a lot of great times. It was a great period of time. And it was like, we were both playing small clubs mostly. And it was very real. It was very much like, you'd play a gig after our show. We'd go off stage, just be hanging out in the crowd. And they would go on and we'd share these horrible little dressing rooms. And yeah, it was very cool. And I don't know, it's strange to think about, now that we're looking back on that period of time, but it was actually a really cool period of time. There's one thing that really stands out. I think Chuck was under a little bit of pressure because he wasn't really a singer by trade. I was in a band with him when I was like 13, 14 years old, and he was a keyboard player. And the singer thing just kind of came by accident. He happened to have a kind of a singing voice. He's a musical guy, so he jammed with us one night, and it worked. And we just kept asking him to come do it again. And he kind of became, like, by default, our singer. But I think that being a singer, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And I mean, I think some insecurity, and he had that built in. So I remember that, when we signed to Slash and we're going in to do Introduce Yourself, I mean, there was more at stake. People were starting to pay attention to us and look at us for the first time in our lives. And I remember when he had to sing, he would always catch a cold. He would always be, and you could hear it. You can actually hear it on the record. He's stuffed up, and it would drive us absolutely nuts. But, he really put himself under a lot of pressure. I think he did a great job, actually, on that record. But it was, as you can imagine, it was a little nerve-wracking.